Hey Merfolk fans, I'm Joe. Thanks very much for joining me today. If you'd like to support my channel, please check the link to my Patreon page above. I'm here with a replay of round 2 of a Modern Friendly League, running my mono blue Merfolk. Let's have a look at the opening hand. I won the die roll, and it's a beautiful hand, easy keep. We're going to want to hit another land or two, but we've got some time for that. And we've got a Silvergill to sort of help us out. Now, turn 1 Spell Pierce isn't something that happens that often, but let's see if we get to use that on turn 1. So it's Dredge, and that is a creature, so we cannot use Spell Pierce. But maybe that Spell Pierce could come in handy against Conflagrate or Life from the Loam or something like that. So there's another island. As I mentioned, I wanted to draw another land or two. Easy play here. Play a Silvergill and reveal... What did I choose? Probably a Reejerey. Nope, Lord of Atlantis, because next turn, that makes sense. I'll play out the Lord of Atlantis and sort of leave up Spell Pierce. And there's a 4th land. So we're going to want to stop drawing lands now. It helps to tell your deck what you're looking for. That way it knows. All right, opponent plays a Mana Confluence, which is going to help us hit its life total. And we see a Cathartic Reunion. They going pretty hard here. They get to Dredge, placing their draws, and their graveyard is getting packed. We see that they hit 2 Prized Amalgams, a Bloodghast, a whole bunch of stuff, and a Narcomoebo. It's going to bring those Prized Amalgams back right now. This guy is Menace, and we're not going to block him anyway, even if we could. And there's 2 Prized Amalgams. We draw another Spell Pierce, which is a little bit clunky. But I'm going to... What's happening here? Play an island. Since the opponent's not going to counter anything, we might as well get our blue sources on the table. Play out a Lord, swing with the Silvergill, and leave up mana for Spell Pierce here. We do see they have a Conflagrate in the yard, and they've got 6 cards in hand, so... 7 cards in hand. Look at they went to the draw step. They don't have any dredgers. Well, I guess they have a Dakmor salvage in there, but they chose not to dredge it. All right, Faithless Looting. We're going to let that resolve. If they needed lands, they probably would have dredged Dakmor salvage. And since they didn't, we're pretty sure they have another land, and it seems likely that they're going to go for the Cathartic Reunion. The Conflagrate this turn. Okay, discarded Prized Amalgam and Life from the Loam, so a lot of Prized Amalgams so far in the game. If they do play that extra land, they're going to get a Bloodghast back. At this point, we can't block, but we've got a pretty healthy life total. So we're just going to take 8. Okay, so there's a second Mana Confluence. We're going to see Bloodghast, and it's nice to see the Mana Confluence because... as I already mentioned, it hits their life total. All right, opponent is... Oh, they're just going for Life from the Loam. Since I have 2 Spell Pierces, I'm going to hit this first Life from the Loam because I already have the mana up, and they're tapping out to do it, so... Now, having this 4th land is actually really useful because I'll be able to play a Reejerey and leave up mana for Spell Pierce. There's a 3rd Prized Amalgam. Master of Waves is a pretty amazing draw here because, well, obviously I've got 4 lands and I can get 4 tokens, but we know the opponent has the Conflagrate coming up. So I think it seems smarter here. They went for the Life from the Loam, which instead of Conflagrate, which seems to me to point to them possibly not having more mana. So, now, a very straightforward play for them would be cast Life from the Loam first next turn, get easy access to more lands, play a land, and then cast Conflagrate. Of course, if the opponent predicts Spell Pierce, they could play a land from their hand and then play Conflagrate with mana up, but I feel like it's much, much more likely that they'll lead with Life from the Loam next turn. So we'll go for Reejerey here. Now, I have to think carefully because the opponent does have a lot of power on the board. They've got 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So if we block Bloodghast, we can safely take 3, 6, 9, 10, 11. Let's see here. Gotta think through the damage really, really carefully. They are showing 11 points here if we block the Bloodghast. So I have to choose carefully which creature I'm going to attack with. I decided to get in with the Island Walk Lord because I'm almost certainly not going to block with him, because at the very least I want the Devotion to be able to cast Master of Waves, and if we, to help get more elemental tokens from Master of Waves. Now the opponent's at 11, they have to be a tiny bit careful about their life total as well. So again, at this point, they could swing in for 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Bloodghast is an easy block, but then... No, you know what? We can block Bloodghast with Reejerey, and then block one of their prized amalgams if they do go all out. Reejerey will survive against the Bloodghast, and we can just trade it with one prized amalgam, follow up with Master of Waves for a whole bunch of tokens, and we're sitting pretty comfortably. So the opponent dredged a Life from the Loam for the turn. They cast it, and I let it resolve. It looks like they're going to combat first. So they're going to get in for exact lethal here, or try to. I'm just going to block the Bloodghast. We have the Spell Pierce to protect us against the Conflagrate. The Bloodghast will come back, of course, when the opponent plays one of those lands that they got from Life from the Loam. They're going to get 2 Bloodghasts, actually. So I'm sitting at 2 life, and looks like the opponent is going for the Conflagrate here. So they only go for X equals 2. They must have some things in hand that they want to play, or they could go for a second Conflagrate, actually, next turn. Looks like they just dredged one of those. So, before I cast the Spell Pierce, I want to point out that the opponent is at 9 now. Bloodghasts cannot block, and we have the benefit of Reejerey triggers. So if we cast Master of Waves next turn, we could tap down one of their creatures. Unfortunately, they could block 1, and we could only get it in for 6. However, if we cast Reejerey, we could untap one of our lands. And then we'd have 2 lands to cast any 2-drop Merfolk that we draw, or any Cursecatchers that we draw. Let's see. I mean, we are getting low on outs just because, or low on time, just because of that second Conflagrate in the graveyard. This is the second Spell Pierce, so we're going to be out of Spell Pierces after this one. And the opponent has a pretty substantial board. So going into this turn now, I think pretty much any 2-drop Merfolk or any 1-drop Merfolk would do. Okay, I ripped a Cursecatcher, so that is enough. It could have been anything. We didn't need any more lords because we have 10 power on the table. But I'm going to cast a Reejerey, tap down their Narcomoeba. Oh, you know what? If I had drawn a 2-drop, I would have had to... I don't know if that would have worked, actually. Even if it was a Lord, because I would have had to cast the Reejerey. Oh, no. It would have worked because I had the Reejerey in hand. If I cast this one, I can untap a land, play the 2-drop, and then I get double triggers, of course, from the Reejereys to tap down both of these guys. And now I'll get 2 triggers from Cursecatcher, and I'll just tap down a Bloodghast, even though it doesn't matter. Now, at this point, the opponent was complaining about how lucky I was. Of course, he has nothing to say about hitting 2 Conflagrates and 3 prized amalgams within the first few turns of the game. That's not lucky at all. That's just how his deck works. All right, so we get to swing for 13 here, I think. And we get there game 1 against Dredge, which is excellent because it's a really fast, explosive deck, and it can be tricky in game 1. It gets a little bit easier in game 2 when we get to bring in some great sideboard cards. Look away for a second if you don't want to see the match result. All right, so I'm back for game 2. Let's take a quick look at my sideboard strategy. So I took out 4 Reejereys and 1 Kira. Now, Kira can be decent in the matchup, but only if the opponent kind of goes for Conflagrate on our board. A lot of time, the opponent is just Conflagrating our face. So Kira's not always super duper helpful. So again, I took out 4 Reejereys and 1 Kira. I brought in, let's see, I didn't bring in my counter magic. I brought in 2 Echoing Truths, which are great because it puts things like Prize Amalgams back in their hand. Then they have to somehow get them to the graveyard again, and then get some sort of trigger in order to get them back on the battlefield. So getting creatures back into their hand can actually set the Dredge deck back a lot. Okay, so I brought in 2 Echoing Truths and 3 Relic of Progenitus. So 5 really strong cards against Dredge, especially the Relics. So the opponent's going to be on the play. Wow, I just clicked through the whole first turn. Let me do a quick recap of that. I clicked the wrong button, but it's not a big deal. The opponent, let's see. Actually going to check on their mulligans real fast. Let's see. Okay, it looks like they kept and played a Faithless Looting and a Mana Confluence, discarding a Bloodghast and a Prize Amalgam. So pretty strong start from the opponent, but again, taking life from their Mana Confluence. I kept on a really strong hand. It's a pretty natural Merfolk hand, doesn't have any graveyard hate, but Cursecatcher can keep them off of a turn to Cathartic Reunion, which is a very, very powerful spell that can just fill up their graveyard really fast. So let's go ahead and get this Cursecatcher out of our hand. Now, I really didn't want to draw more lands right now, but it's not too terrible. We still have some spells to play. We'll have time to draw more. I'm gonna counter this Faithless Looting. They cast it before playing another land, which means that they might have kept a very greedy hand, thinking that they could dig into lands with Faithless Looting. It's possible they just might have made a bad sequencing mistake and do have lands in hand, but it looks like they actually don't. Master of Waves is a beautiful thing. I'm going to cast Silvergill, keep drawing cards, hopefully hit like a Relic of Progenitus, hit a second Master of Waves. The opponent is still not hitting lands. Third land, I was just going to play an Island Walk Lord, but first I'll swing with the Silvergill in case the opponent... let's see. No, I guess in this case, it probably would have been correct to play... No, I guess the thing about attacking with Silvergill is if the opponent wants to prevent damage, they might spend removal on Silvergill instead of my Lord, so I've got plenty of time here with the opponent stuck on one land that now it ends up being Dark Blast instead of something like Lightning Axe, which could have killed the Lord. Now Dark Blast couldn't kill the Lord, but anyhow, better to lure out the removal, play a Master which has 2 Devotion, which will make even more tokens next turn with Master of Waves. Okay, looks like they whiffed one more time. I know this is not the most exciting Magic. So I'm going to play my Master of Waves. At this point, the opponent was getting pretty salty. I think it might be like an angsty teenager or something, or just a poorly adjusted adult. But at this point, he was swearing at me. He told me that Master of Waves was too slow for the format. I told him that keeping 1 land hands is too slow for the format. All right, he's got a Bloodghast, and that will bring back a Prize Amalgam, but this guy's using this Mana Confluence. There's a Cathartic Reunion. He's going to start filling up his graveyard. We see a Gnaw to the Bone. Gain 2 life for each creature card in his graveyard. There's currently 2 creatures in his graveyard. 3, 4. So 2 of those Prize Amalgams I think triggered during the end step. So they didn't come in this turn. They'll come in, my end step, but I don't even think we're really going to get there. Bloodghast can't block, and I'm going to have 7 + 6 for 13 exactly. Now, it's rough that the opponent got screwed on mana. They did keep a 1-land hand. But I told them that they should try to work on their manners a little bit. It's not nice to swear at your opponents. I didn't do anything other than just play Merfolk. Cursecatcher did an excellent job this game. Kept the opponent from drawing extra cards off of his second Faithless looting. And the rest was, yeah, I mean, didn't draw any sideboard hate, right? I didn't draw any Echoing Truths, didn't draw any relics. Just pretty easy game too. The Dredge deck doesn't have the advantage of AEther Vial, making it more reasonable to keep 1-landers. So yeah, they got punished, and we beat Dredge 2-0. So currently sitting at 2-0, haven't dropped a game yet in this friendly league. Please let me know your thoughts on the match. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave any questions you might have below, and tune in for the next video where I'll be replaying round 3 of this Modern Friendly League. Thanks, guys. Bye.